Hey guys, in this video I'll be showing my most recent clear of Gauntlet 3 as well as giving a few tips and showing the builds I used for the wizard. But before I go ahead and show the run, I just want to give a quick PSA, and that is that the Gauntlets are going to be rotating out on the 13th of December. So if you didn't already know, we're going to get the major update on the 13th of December, and all of these three Reliquary Gauntlets are going to get rotated out for the new Reliquary Gauntlets. So if you don't want to miss out on any of these rewards, then I suggest you guys to find a group and look to clear at least some of these gauntlets just so you don't miss out on the rewards. So talking about the rewards, obviously you do get some triple stat or double stat exceptional items, green and legendary items, but you also do get some nice cosmetics. So the Howling Terror weapon, you can see the look of it here, that's for Gauntlet 1, and then the Howling Terror armor, this is what it looks like, and then finally the Howling Terror portal. Another cosmetic you can also get is the Howling Terror frame here, and the way you get this is by placing within the top 75 teams on the server. So 1 to 75 you can see gets this frame here, and then 76 plus, so just for participating you do get a set item here. So if you do want to unlock this frame here, it can be a bit challenging depending on which server you're on. Most of the time you're going to have to not only clear Gauntlet 3 but also get a pretty decent time clearing it, so it can be a bit difficult. So with that out of the way, I'm going to show the run that we had, which is currently rank 1 on my server. So this was actually only my second clear of Gauntlet 3, and for the first clear I did it with a pretty low resonance group and we managed to clear it in 10 minutes. So obviously this isn't the most impressive time, but I was still proud of that achievement because, like I said, we didn't really have that many high resonance players. But for this specific run we actually had 5 players over 8,000 resonance, which was pretty crazy. So needless to say, we had more than enough damage, and this kind of ensured that the run went really smoothly. Still, we did do a little bit of strategy, and that is to have one necromancer in each group, and they were basically playing the support necromancer role. So basically they had the bone armor skill, and this allowed us to have 5 charges of damage immunity. So if you didn't know, if a necromancer uses the chest essence, which is parting gift, this basically allows everyone within range of bone armor to get 5 damage immunity charges, which makes sure that they won't have to deal with any one-shot mechanics or just needlessly take a lot of damage from the raid bosses here. So as you can see, right now we're on the second raid boss, and we just melted his HP, and we skipped over to the next phase, and you'll just see how quickly we're able to melt through the first couple of bosses here. So normally a huge tip I would say when running these gauntlets is to ensure that everybody in the raid is on voice, so that you can kind of optimize the group play and the teamwork and the strategy that you're going to have for each of these bosses. But unfortunately in this case, most of the players here didn't have so much time to do more than one run, and I was just kind of glad to be invited to this specific run. So sometimes you just have to go with the flow, and even if it's not going to be the most optimal run, I was still pretty happy to be invited. And to be honest, I wouldn't have been able to achieve rank 1 on my server if it wasn't for the help of these players here. So shout out to all of them, thank you so much for helping me, guys. These were all players from my alliance, so I'm really happy to have been able to participate in this run. So right now we're facing off the third boss, which is the stag here, and for this specific boss, usually the mechanics that you have to deal with is you have to take the light and basically disperse the mist like it says here. And so what you have to do is pick up these lanterns, and you can see these orbs which are making their way towards the boss. You basically have to hit them so that they don't one-shot you, but in this case, because I had the necromancers, I just kept damaging away at the boss. But as you'll see, he's not really taking that much damage, but I didn't really care so much about it. I just kept hitting him. And now we move on to the next phase, which is basically you have to kill the clones, and they went down super quickly here. So once again, we skip to the last phase of the boss. So for this specific phase, you have to kind of also deal damage to the clones, but also some of the clones you have to kind of take the light and move over towards them, which is going to disperse them as well. But as you can see, I didn't really have to deal with any of the mechanics here, and once again this boss went down really easily. So for this fourth boss here, you can see that as soon as I entered the portal, the cutscene was already triggered, and what this does once you trigger the cutscene is it starts the timer for the boss, and everybody was behind here and one player just rushed ahead. So you can see how casual this run was, and everybody was just rushing their way through. They weren't really paying attention to the time. So that's just something to bear in mind, that if you are going for a good time, you kind of need to be aware of it, that after each boss kill the timer gets frozen, and I think this is to accommodate for players with very slow load times, so that they're able to load into the next level. So always make sure that all the players within the raid are in a good position to move ahead and kill the boss before triggering the cutscene, because once you do trigger the cutscene, the timer is going to resume. For this specific boss, I would recommend that you fight him from either the left side or the right side, so that you don't have to deal with the one-shot mechanics that he does. Another thing is that for the beams here, you kind of want to split up so that you block the beams at the same time and you don't waste too much time faffing about and moving from one beam to the next. So as you can see here, we're moving through this pretty quickly. Looking back at the footage here, maybe it wasn't necessary for us to have both Necros going into a support role. Maybe one of them could have done a bit more damage and we probably would have been able to get a much better time, probably cut down the time by another 30 seconds to 1 minute. But unfortunately, like I said, these guys could only do one run, so it is what it is. So for this last boss here, you want to basically get all of these legs down at the same time. So this is what we're trying to do here. I'm just focusing on the top left leg here, but as you can see, they've kind of worked their way through and managed to get all of the legs at the same time. So if you don't get them all at the same time, they're basically going to regenerate. So once you kill the first leg, it's going to start like a countdown of, I think, 20 seconds or so. And if you don't kill all of the other legs within 20 seconds, then they're going to start regenerating. For raids that are struggling or don't have too many high resonance players, I would actually recommend you guys to have a different strategy on the legs, and that is to get them all to about 10 to 20% life first before clearing through all of them. As you can see here, I had my second death, and a huge tip that I want to say for the last boss is basically you want to save all of your self revives for this last boss here. Because, like I said, bosses 1 to 4 aren't really that challenging, and you want to be saving all of your revives here because you want to maximize the amount of damage that you're doing on the boss so that you don't have to deal with as many of the leg phases, which I'm going to talk about. So for the leg phases, basically, if you have to deal with more than 2, it becomes really challenging because the boss is going to spawn a lot more adds and they're going to basically eat through your damage immunity a lot quicker. So you don't really want to deal with more than 2 leg phases, and as you can see here, we only had to deal with 1, and we had a final completion time of 3 minutes and 39 seconds. So I'll show the damage breakdown here. So for once I wasn't the last person, I had about 8% damage done, which I was pretty proud of, but considering that 2 players beneath me were playing support builds, which is the support necromancer, I was pretty much the lowest DPS dealer in the whole raid. So just before I exit the raid here, I will show some of the builds of the other players in the raid. So I'll show the Tempest here. You can see he's playing a very similar build to the top DPS build that I've shown on my channel. So he wasn't going for Storm Fury for some reason, but I think that's because like I said, they didn't have that much time to optimize. I quickly showed the Monk there, and here is also the support Necromancer, the first one, and I'll also show the second support Necromancer here. So I'm not really going to be deep diving into all of these other class builds. I'm mainly going to show the wizard builds, but if you're interested, guys, you can slow down the footage or pause the video here and just take a look at their build. I will also show the build of the top DPS wizard, who had about 24% in this particular raid, and he was playing a very similar build to the infinite power build which I was playing. Just as a bonus, I'm also going to show the Crusader build for Gauntlet. So we didn't have a Crusader this time in the group, but Crusaders are also very valuable in Gauntlet because they can provide the Fire Banner, which is a really nice buff, with the Aaron Ignition Helmet. And you can go with the Accurate's Rebuke, Light Striders, and then Sanctified Scribe and Horn Splitter. This could also be replaced with the Bristle, it's fine. And then Torrential Refrain and Resplendent Mane for the increased attack speed. So for the shoulders slot here, this player is using Sifket's Advantage. It's also a good option because it's going to increase the duration of your horse summon. But to be honest, if you want to play more of a support role and you want to buff the group damage even more, then Folly of Zakarum shoulders with the extra 39% increased duration of Holy Banner is going to also be a very good option. So to end the video, I'm going to show the build that I used for Gauntlet myself. So I used a very similar build to the Infinite Power build, which I've showcased on my channel. This is the build that I have equipped now. I'm not going to go through all of the specific mechanics. I'll just show you guys the essence. So Terminus Facade, Isolated Storm, War Mage Mantle, Gale-bringing Leggings, Radiant Splines, Unrepentant Gale, Mistral Rend, and Frenetic Spark. So this was the original Infinite Power build that I came up with, but one thing which I completely forgot about is the Heliquary bonuses which apply in Gauntlet. So this is a really important tip because I know a lot of people forget about this. So for my specific Heliquary remains that I have equipped, so these are the total bonuses that I have, which will apply in Heliquary raids and challenge rifts, and also the Gauntlets. So I get cooldown, I get skill damage, primary attack damage, critical hit chance, and damage done by summons. So you can confirm that you get these stats once you enter the gauntlet. They will be applied. So in my opinion, the best properties that you want to look for here are skill cooldown reduction, critical hit chance increase, critical hit damage increase, and also damage done to demons. Skill damage is also decent, and primary attack damage is also decent. So in this case, because I have 11% cooldown here, and if I have a look at my character, I also have 21% cooldown reduction. So this will actually reach the cap of 30% cooldown with that extra 11% that I have. So this makes some of the specific essence kind of useless, most notably the Frenetic Spark here. So the Frenetic Spark, I just had it so I could have the extra cooldown for Lightning Nova here, but I decided to actually replace this. The same for the Unrepentant Gale. I also have this for cooldown and a bit more damage for Arcane Wind. I also decided to replace this, and then finally also for the Galebringer Leggings, it's the same thing. The Awakening gave 10% Arcane Wind cooldown reduction. So the final build that I ended up settling on for Gauntlet, which I believe is going to give me the best DPS, is this build here. So I've replaced the 3 essences, the pants and the offhand. So I actually decided to go for Disintegrate cooldown is refreshed. So this works a bit differently from traditional cooldown essences because it basically gives you a flat out cooldown reduction. So it's 1.6 seconds, which can stack up to 4.8 seconds when you damage enemies. So this works separately from the 30% cooldown, and it just helps recharge skills even faster. So this is really crazy as long as you keep hitting enemies with Disintegrate. And then for the offhand essences, I decided to replace them with the Trifling Piffle, and this gives extra damage. It actually gives an extra Lightning Nova when you hit a shocked enemy, so I'm not really applying so much shock myself, but other party members or people in the raid could be applying this shock for me, so that's why I decided to use this here. If you don't have it, you could switch this out for something like Blaster Cast or Magic Missile. And then for the final essence, I also replaced it for more damage on Arcane Wind, so this will give me more damage when I ignite a Firestorm, and also gives me Arcane Wind damage for the Awakening Wind. So in my opinion, if you have cooldown reduction cap, this is the build that's going to give you the highest damage for Wizard currently, and I would only, like I said, recommend this build if you have high resonance players in your party and also Necros to keep you alive. So if you don't have either of those things, or if you just want a build with a bit more tankiness, then I'm actually going to recommend you a slightly different build than this, which uses Ice Armor. So this is the build here, and I've already changed up 3 of the essences once again, and in this case I decided to also change up one of my skills. So instead of Arcane Wind, I went for Ice Armor with the Hailstone offhand. So this reads that Ice Armor now protects you with 6 charges of damage immunity that also chill nearby enemies. So this works really similar to the Necro Bone Armor. The only thing is, unfortunately, it only applies to yourself. You can't apply it to other party members, but this will basically allow you to become pretty much invincible. And using this essence, I was able to clear bosses 1 to 4 in Gauntlet 3 completely solo, and I was actually able to also survive the crab boss for 15 whole minutes while the boss was enraged. I didn't actually die until the 3rd phase of the legs, where he spawned a bunch of ads which were kind of wiping out my Ice Armor charges really quickly here. But to talk about the other essences that I changed, like I said, we took out the Arcane Wind, so instead I went for the Thunderbird's Bite Lightning Nova main hand just to get a bit more Lightning Nova damage. And then for the other offhand here, I went for Blaster Cast just to give me 2 extra missiles on my Magic Missile, which gave me a little bit more damage. So just so I don't bore you guys, I'm only going to show a little bit of the solo fight that I had with the Gauntlet 3 final boss, which is the crab boss, while using this infinite Ice Armor build, which I just showed. And as you can see, this build is really tanky. The boss is just enraged. Obviously, I've sped up this footage slightly, and you can just see that I'm able to survive. If you take a look at the time, I'm about 23 minutes in. It took me about 20 minutes to clear all 4 bosses by myself. The last 2 bosses before this also reached the enraged stage, but I was able to survive, and I think I ended up with about 3 extra self-reses at the end here for this final boss. So I've taken down 1 leg phase here, and this is the 2nd leg phase, and unfortunately I had to reach the 3rd leg phase, and that's where it becomes a bit hard because he spawns way too many ads, and the problem is when those ads hit you, it does eat up through all of your shields really quickly. So like I said, you don't really want to be fighting this boss past the 3rd phase of the legs. So I'm actually going to skip to the end of the fight here, but I just want you guys to take a note of the time. Right now it's 25 minutes in. and I was able to survive all the way up to 35 minutes. So I think I was able to survive about 15 minutes with this boss being enraged, which was just insane. So the only reason why I died here is, as you can see, he spawned all of these snake ads, which just shoot stuff all around the screen, and it's really hard to dodge all of this, and it just eats through your ice armor really quickly. So either way, I was really impressed with how this build with ice armor performed, and it turns out that Wizard is actually a lot tankier than we first thought, at least with regards to PvE. That's about all that I want to share for this one, guys. I hope that this video has been useful. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching, and if you do try out one of these builds, do let me know, and good luck with your gauntlet clears.